right. Welcome everyone. It's really great to have you all here. So we're going to start today's session, and we have Sangeeta. Sangeeta and I are chatting here for the first time, but Sangeeta has an extremely great hello. Sangeeta has a fantastic background. She is experienced for 25 years in everything GMAT and GRE, and helping candidates such as yourself get into the top schools. So whether you're talking about M7 or you're talking about the top European schools, Sangeeta has been instrumental in helping candidates achieve admits into such schools. Currently, Sangeeta is doing quite a lot of interesting things, from traveling to writing poetry, and she'll talk more about it. So I'll just pass on the mic to Sangeeta so that she can introduce herself, and we will then begin talking about everything GMAT and GRE. Welcome, Sangeeta.
Thank you, Ashmita. Welcome to the session, and I'm here to answer questions on GMAT. I'm very happy to be with with people who need any information. Not that I have all of it, but I can at least find out. I have been coaching for GRE and GMAT for a very long time, and I love the exam, if I may say so. I think it tests exactly what business schools need, and they have upgraded this GMAT in such a way that it answers the business needs that they want to look at from a student's point of view. If they have a candidate, they want to measure them up. Now, it is new, and there's been a lot of, I don't know how it's going to be, because there are a lot of unknowns in this new Focus GMAT version, and that's why we've got this talk going today. So I welcome any questions that you have, and it'll be lovely talking to you. Thanks, Ashmita, for this lovely introduction. Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sangeeta. It's a pleasure having you here. And I think you already touched upon the mammoth. So that's what we are going to begin with. We're going to, just for all of you to know, we're going to have a short discussion, and then we're going to open the room for your questions. So Sangeeta, as she mentioned, is here to answer your questions. But some of the questions that we've already received is something that we'll begin with, which is, Sangeeta, the mammoth that you touched upon, which is the Focus Edition. So all the time we are now getting questions on what to do. Should we go with GMAT, or should we go with GMAT Focus Edition? So maybe if you could tell us a little bit about what the Focus Edition is about, and the difference between them.
Absolutely. I think I'll start off with what is not different, and how the earlier version compares with this. Like, I want to start first with why they changed the GMAT was to exactly focus on the business side of schools. And I will go through each of the sections one by one to show why they've done so. They haven't changed the GMAT for a very long time. And then we'll address the question of whether you should take the old GMAT version, the new GMAT version, or the GRE. We can do that later. So first of all, how has the pattern changed? So I'm going to start with Quant. Quant earlier had 31 questions, and it had about an hour to do it. Verbal had 36 questions, about an hour, and IR, which is integrated reasoning, had 30 minutes with just 12 questions. The big change that they have made is brought down the time. So that's a big plus for you. It's just a 2-hour paper, and the biggest thing is that you don't have an essay at all. So earlier you had this whole 3 hours plus of sweating it out and having 100% focus on that one question, which you can do easily right now. So let's take verbal. Verbal has completely, removed sentence correction. And sentence correction in the old version, although it seems easy, like it just takes you one sentence and you want to do that really well, you feel like you know English, so you can do it. But that's where maximum number of mistakes are made, especially because when we speak, we understand what each other, like what the other person is saying. But if the same thing it comes in written English, it's incorrect. So it's very hard for us to figure out what is the right way of saying things and the wrong way of saying. So the old GMAT tested that, like how's your written English? But in the new verbal section, they're only testing verbal reasoning, which is reading comprehension remains the same, and critical reasoning remains the same. They might introduce a more analytical version of the critical reasoning. We don't know exactly what it is because even the material has the same critical reasoning question, and they have just removed the sentence correction. So those, so that's the biggest thing. Then you also have verbal, you have 45 minutes to do 23 questions. So the number of questions has come down, and the time is also decreased. So you have 45 minutes. Earlier you had this, you could choose which section you want to do first, you still can. And you had a time in between, like you could take a break. Now you don't have a break. So the time will continue. You still have just 2 hours to 2 hours, 15 minutes to finish. But if you want to take a break, it's on your time. The quant, the biggest change here is that they say there's no data sufficiency question. And all the 20, and there are 21 questions, 45 minutes, 21 questions to be answered in 45 minutes. All of them are problem solving. So you'll have options, 5 options for all of those questions. So it's just PS, no data sufficiency at all, where you have to compare, is this information enough? So it was confusing, but don't get so happy because that whole DS has gone into what they now call data insight, which is a bit of data interpretation, all of the data interpretation questions, as the earlier questions with so what is data insight hold? Like what kind of content does it have? What does it question? And why have they introduced this new section? Earlier, data sufficiency, sorry, not data sufficiency, DI, data interpretation, did not affect your 800 score. But now the data insight will contribute to your 800 score. And that's the biggest change of the focus edition. And why are they doing it? Because we have a lot of data today, and you'll have to analyze data, numeric data, verbal data, and verbal data. I just saw a question. Are we going to discuss the old format? We can. And I'll give you the differences and whether you should do that now or later, but we'll do it a little later. So there are 20 questions in the DI section, which is now called data insight and not data interpretation, and you still have 45 minutes to solve it. What does this have? It's the same as data interpretation in terms of multi-source reasoning, where you have several pieces of information and you're asked to analyze. Both verbal and quant, like both numeric and verbal reasoning, because you have a paragraph, maybe it's an experiment, and this data. Now, this data interpretation questions also come in terms of table analysis. You will have tables, and you might have just a graph question. So anyway, 20 questions are there, so they'll probably give you both. You'll have table analysis and graph, and you might have a couple of graphs. Now, the new thing I feel is this thing called the two-part analysis, which they have introduced in, mostly they say that's because of how do you take a decision. So this is something that I'm not really clear about what kind of questions come here, but we will know soon. But that's about it. Yep. So what is new? One is you can take the new GMAT, the focus GMAT in any order you want, verbal, quant, DI. You can, okay, this is one big change. Like early in the earlier version, you could not go back to a question. You confirm your answer and go ahead. But here, you can bookmark as many questions you want in a section, but in each section, you can change your answers for three questions. You're allowed to change your answers, and that's kind of nice because you can go back and forth. So you can bookmark as many, but you can change up to three answers, which sort of is really nice. The other change is that you can choose to send your scores to the college after you see your scores. Up until now, they did not allow that. You had to choose to, you choose to see, you don't know your scores before you send it. So that's one. Then the official score, there's something called the ESR, which is an enhanced score report. I think earlier there was a fee, maybe $30 attached to it. But now when you register, when you get your score report, you do get your enhanced score report, which is like, what is the percentage of questions you answered in verbal quant DI? What's your percentile? How do you compare with your peers? What kind of timing did you use within a section? So all of that in detail, they would tell you. This is only to know for yourself. It's more in terms of your own analysis. I've always felt that ESR is mostly like that, but also they give you what type of questions, I think, in reading comprehension and all that. But you would never know which questions you got right and wrong. That still you don't know. Oh, there was this one big change in the quant section, which is no geometry. You only have algebra and arithmetic. I don't know if that is good or bad because I love geometry, but hey, no geometry. And in the quant section, you cannot use a calculator. Earlier, you were able to use the calculator if you choose to, and some questions you can't, and the icon wouldn't pop up. But now you cannot use a calculator in the quant section, but you can use the calculator in the DI section, data insight section. That's another change. And hey, the last one is there's no AWA, no essay to write. And this is what I have. And if you want to know something about the old GMAT, I can just, as a comparison, just say that it's a little more than 3 hours. Quant, you have 31 questions, 62 minutes. Verbal, you have 36 questions, 65 minutes. IR, you have 12 questions, 30 minutes, but it doesn't count to your 800. There is one more change, which I'm not so sure what significance it has. Earlier, your scores used to be between 200 and 800. Now it is 205 to 805. And they have actually given your score comparison. Like earlier, if you got 720 in your GMAT, what does it look like today? I don't know that. I mean, like, I don't know all the numbers, but yeah, they've given you but what is it? How is this interpreted in the colleges? Yeah, sorry. Am I audible now? I'm so sorry.
Yes, yes,
Sangeeta,
Sangeeta, you're audible now.
Yeah. Sorry that I went off a little bit, but I was just saying that there is a change in what was I saying? Yeah, the IR
The scores.
Yeah, the scores. They have a 205 to 805. I don't know what that extra 5 thing means, but we still have to learn about all of this and how the universities look at it. So far, the GMAT is changing. It's not that you have to take the focus GMAT right away. Like if you still want to take the old version, you're comfortable with it. The universities are comfortable with grading you. If you get a 720, they know exactly what that means. I think it's been there for the same pattern has been there for 20 years or something like that. So they know what it means. And in the focus GMAT, if you get a 720, they're still not sure what that means. Okay, so that is there. And I suppose, yeah, there was one small change which I haven't mentioned, but earlier we used to have this scale score between 6 and 51. Sorry, yeah. And now we have the scale score is between 60 and 90. Again, the comparison and what that means, we still don't know. It's going to start only on November 7th. And I have students for both, like the old version and the new version. And what they're testing is not very different. Okay, except for that DI, you better, like earlier we used to say like DI, just leave it, we'll do it at the end. But now you have to pay attention to DI question. And that's all the difference has been in terms of what you need to answer for GMAT. And yay, sentence corrections gone. I loved it, but yeah, it's very tricky. Yeah, for those people who want to take the old version, I can say the only advantage is that everybody knows how to grade it or how to react to a score, and you're used to that. You know, you have a lot of material available in the old version. So if you feel like you need to take you're already prepped for it, maybe you've got a score of 7, say you've got a score of 670, you want to make it a 720, go ahead, take the old version. It's going to be available. The scores will be valid for 5 years. So that's fine. Is there anything
Perfect.
that on the screen just now? Like, do you want me to repeat something?
No, all good, Sangeeta.
Right.
We can do a short recap right at the end, but right now,
Yeah.
because there are so many questions, we'll move a little
Yeah, go on.
forward.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd
So
love to do that. Yeah.
personally, great to know about geometry being gone. My maths teacher
Really?
would be very happy on my behalf that geometry is gone. But so for people like me, I was an anomaly. I was better at verbal, uh, not so good at quant.
Okay.
It seems like the focus edition is better. So,
Yeah.
are there certain categories that you would say go for the focus edition if you check this, and this box?
I would generally say that if you're applying for after 2024, after the session, like if you're applying for next year, I think it's a fair deal that, you might as well change over to the focus edition. If you're starting your prep now, it makes sense. That's all. That's what I would say. But if you have already started prep, uh, continue to do the old version. That's my personal opinion, because you've already prepped that way, you know how to handle it. But I think you also asked this version of what kind of people will find the focus edition better. I think everyone, because on the verbal side, there is this sentence correction which deceptively looks easy, but that's the maximum number of errors you make. You don't notice it, but if you really see your scores in your old tests, you will see that sentence correction gets you, because you feel like it's the right answer, so you tend to make a lot of mistakes. Whereas critical reasoning is a good bet because it's all logic, right? And you can, as long as you know your assumptions, and this is the conclusion, and this is the gap in this is the evidence, this is the conclusion, and this is the gap in the reasoning, which is the assumption on which they base the questions. It's completely logical, so you can work on it. And there are some reading comprehension tricks which we can talk about in another episode maybe, but it's very logical. It's all in front of you. You can work it out. It's only the sentence correction which is English based, which has gone out. So I think in that way it's good. Is it good in terms of geometry? Yes. I think spatial reasoning used to be a whole part of why geometry was there in the first place, but the whole focus edition is going more towards data, like data interpretation, analysis. How do you connect one data with the other? Are they connectable? That kind of question. So I feel like both verbal and quant like you said, if you don't like geometry, take the focus edition.
Fair enough. All right. Now moving from GMAT and the GMAT traditional setup versus Focus Edition to more of GMAT versus GRE. Uh, who, what would you say is the basic difference, and how would you advise on people candidates taking up each of these different exams?
You mean to say old version versus new version? Is that what you're asking?
No, the GMAT versus GRE.
GMAT
So
versus GRE. I think I saw a question pop up on screen, so let me answer her. She was asking she's okay with geometry, but what about the other parts? Take the
okay.
old version. You're
Fair
good at
enough.
geometry, take the old version. And the other parts are going to remain the same with a lot of unknowns like X-based questions. Um, and you don't have DS in the new versions. So also ask yourself whether you're okay with data sufficiency. I think that's a good question to ask yourself. Are you good at data sufficiency? If you're good at data sufficiency, take the old version. Okay, now moving on to GRE versus GMAT. At the moment, I mean, I have to be honest over here. I've always favored GMAT for business schools, especially. You know what they're asking. Why I favor the GMAT is that you have a lot of material to work with. So MBA.com gives you enough material to work with. There are lots of questions available for free online. You have enough tests to take. Whereas GRE traditionally has never had that many tests or material available to practice the GRE. GRE is also, and I'm talking not because the focus edition has come, but because of GMAT and GRE itself. And GRE also focuses a lot on the vocabulary. So you need to know words. It's not really so, I mean, if it's actually a myth, you need to have an above average older vocabulary, but it's all reasoning within that sentence. And there is a methodology on how you do it, and then difficult words won't trouble you that much. So that's one of the things that I want to say, that I have always thought that the GMAT, you'd be better off taking the GMAT only because there's so much of practice available, and it's a fairly balanced test to take, whether you're strong in verbal or strong in quant. Now coming to, should I take the focus edition or should I take the GRE? The GRE has also changed. Okay, and there is no going back. There are no two versions about it. You just have to take this new version of GRE. That's it. Okay, I'll give you a brief like numbers on GRE. What's changed in the GRE right now? Can I go ahead and do that as well? Okay.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
Sangeeta,
yeah.
please.
Okay. So what's the new GRE like? There used to be 2 AWAs, 2 essays, issue and argument, and now there's only issue, no argument. The time is also 2 hours, shortened its time, so yay, no breaks. So the verbal, they've done this. They've given 27 questions, 41 minutes. Now this 27 questions is a weird number, but what they've done is they give you 12 questions in the first part of the verbal section, and then the 15 in the second. Now, we don't know this for sure, but what people feel, I mean, I've just been listening to people who have actually given this test. They say that it's probably because the 12th question decides which box you go to. Is it medium, difficult, hard? So it's more adaptive in that sense, rather than one-to-one question. Like in the GMAT, it's more like if you answer a bunch of questions right, you go on to a more difficult level. The adaptable, the CAT, the adaptive test is slightly differently designed in the GMAT. But in this is what the theory is. And again, math, 2 sections, 12 plus 15. You also get your scores faster. And the biggest, I think for me, the biggest change in GRE is that there is no unscored section. Like earlier, you used to do an entire section and you don't even know whether it's going to be scored or not. So that's a few. That's a good one. Other than that, should you take this or that? I would still say that it depends on how comfortable you are with English and sentence construction, because even now you still have sentence completion, sentence equivalence. Nothing about the GRE content has changed, except that there is no one essay instead of two, and it's become shorter. All what is that thing called? Quant comparison questions. In quant, there is two types of questions: problem solving and quant comparison, multiple choice and quant comparison. That remains the same. Only the number of questions have gone down, and there's no change in content. So if you're already preparing for the GRE, then go ahead. If you're strong with your language skills, then I would say go with your GRE. I would say, because even sentence completion is gone from the GMAT. And also, the scores haven't changed. It's still 340. It's still like 170, 170. And there is a detailed, well, yeah. So I would say that if you are fairly happy with your verbal skills, not verbal reasoning skills, but more like language skills, go with the GRE. Otherwise, take the new Focus GMAT. Everybody still has to get used to it anyway. Yes, there is this other facet to this is what are the universities accepting? Because now universities are accepting both GRE and GMAT. So you have to decide. So whatever university you want to apply to, please first check whether they're accepting both and then decide on the GRE. Like some of the universities accept only the GMAT. So that's another thing that I would say.
Makes perfect sense. Sangeeta, putting you a little bit on the spot here with a really difficult question that keeps coming up when I'm on call with candidates. This is something that keeps coming up to me as well. Is how do I improve my score? I'm not getting as much as I need to. And what should I do now?
Okay. Of course, you should improve your scores, because I've had, like, seriously, I've had decades of experience, and I've had a bunch of students in front of me, but now I do completely one-on-one. And I have realized that it's about your learning patterns. It's about how you answer that question. So one of the best techniques that I have figured out is to keep track of where you go wrong. Okay, and this is for GRE and GMAT. And I would make, like I have all my students make a table saying that, okay, where did this question come from? Like, let's say I'm taking a test of 30 questions or 20 questions, right? And I get, say, 15 right, 5 wrong. I want to spend as much time on those 5. All right. What I would do is to see why did I make that mistake? And there are 3 reasons. One is I don't know how to solve the problem. Okay. I might not know a theory. I might not know a word. I might have not understood the passage. That is because I have a problem with the content. Okay. We'd like to believe that that's the most common reason, but it's not. It's more likely when you started solving, you jumped in and started solving the problem, and you find that x is equal to 25 and 25 is an answer, and you mark it. And then it's wrong because I didn't read the question right. They might have said that x is a 3-digit number, or they could have said that x is a negative number, or it's a root, or something like that. It's not a root, or something like that. So make sure that you, and then the third one is, okay, so first I want to say, is it a concept issue or is it your methodology issue? And you have to identify at what point did you lose your focus. It's not that you don't know how to do this question. So in general, just keep a log of where exactly you made a mistake. What kind of mistake was it? And don't write probability. Write like I didn't read the question. Okay, like what did I do wrong is important, and how do I fix it? What process do I put in place to fix it? Like if I don't read a question, I'll start writing the question in my scratch sheet, or put like I have to find, say, number of lamps on the road or something like that. Or now I can't even say the other side of the triangle, but okay, yeah. So yeah, so make sure that you really understand your process of solving the problem and where you make mistakes. Be brave enough to face it and not call it a silly mistake. Those silly mistakes are the most expensive ones that you'll make, because you have the ability to make it, you have the ability to solve that problem and you let it out, right? And okay, so that's the first part. Okay, be aware of the mistakes. The second thing is, don't keep practicing questions blindly. Okay, until you have figured out what you've made mistakes with, fix that, put a new process in, and then do your next set of questions. Otherwise, all you're doing is exhausting your bank. Okay, and then you'll start seeing the same questions appearing over and over again when you do it, and you'll say, I already know this passage, I already know this answer. I'm just telling you, there's limited bank. Okay, that's another thing that I would say. If I want to improve my scores, I would not just blindly do practice. I would actually see what I do right and what I do wrong. The third thing I would say is that put 80% of your effort in what you know and 20% of your effort in what you don't know. Make what you know perfect. You can't forgive yourself for going wrong on a questions that you know how to do. Okay, if you don't know how to do it at all, like I don't even know how, like I don't know how to, like Pythagoras theorem, okay, I can forgive myself. And great, there is no right angle triangles now, but yeah, like that's what I want to say. Like put maximum effort in what you know. This is broadly what I can say. Within sections, if there are any specific questions, I can take it from there.
Makes sense. I think one thing that I used to struggle with while I was giving my GMAT was the panic problem, that I would, spend a little too much time on one question and then panic for the next 10 questions. And practicing helped immensely. I remember at one point of time, I was giving a mock exam every single day.
Yeah.
So many times it is just that just practicing. So yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I do think you need practice, towards the end. And I normally do this. Okay, so I cut up my prep into 3 parts. The first part, I only concentrate on accuracy. Okay, so take as much time as you want, but answer that question right. Okay, to yourself. Okay, the second part, you deal with a little bit of time and structure. Okay, so you do a bunch of questions, just like if you have 20 questions per section, take 20 questions. Okay, and see how much time you take, right? And the third part, you just do practice, practice, practice. Do whole tests, analyze the whole test, go on to the next whole test. So you did good.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So, Sangeeta, I think from my end, one last thing that I'm again seeing come up quite a lot. As you know, we are in between the R2 applications right now, and with both European schools and US schools coming up. And a lot of candidates have not taken the GMAT yet, or have yet to improve the score. So, what is the strategy now? How should they go about it, considering that the deadlines are nearing?
I think you should do both. It is imperative that you focus on your essays and your applications as much as you want to get. It's not a serial thing. It's not like I will get so much in my GMAT and then I will apply, or then I will decide. By the time you decide, you don't have time. But your essays can go for any college, right? So don't decide on your college based on your GMAT. Decide on the college and then work towards your GMAT. That's what I would say. So start working on your essays, give it as much time. It's really possible. You don't really require, there is no way at the end of it, you'll say, okay, like I have this 1 week to apply. It won't work as well as you can over a period of time. You know how many edits we have in MBA and beyond, we edit each essay so many times until it's perfect. And you want a perfect application. You need so many details like your CV, your LORs. You have to talk to people. You have to get your stories. You have to link those stories to make a good application. All this takes love. So you better be at it. And, continuously you can work on your, simultaneously, please work on your GRE and GMAT scores as well, but do it simultaneously. It's your application. Sometimes there are so many of my applicants who got, well, like a 690, a 680, but they've paid so much attention to the way that they present themselves in their essays, in their, video interviews, that they've got in with you. You must have heard, all of you must have heard stories of, yeah, I didn't get the 700, but I got into this college, right? Yeah. So please make that effort. It's like a pie. They will look at your GMAT scores, like 1/3 of the pie, another third would be the way your applications, and the other third would be your, your past and whether um, you're you fit the college kind of thing based on your experience and work ex and all of that. And thank you, whoever said that.
Makes perfect sense. This, in fact, reminds me of a candidate we had, Kirtana. She was trying really, really hard to increase her GMAT. Yeah. And at the same time, she was working on her application. Yeah. And she got the desired score, which was, I think, 730 or 710, literally 3 days before submitting the application. And this was the 8th time she was applying. She was not able to exceed 600 and something. Wow. And she got into Fuqua. Yeah. So it was 3 days. Amazing. Yeah.
I can totally see that happening. It happens so often. So don't, I would really pay a lot of attention to my application. The GMAT and the GRE will happen. Believe me. And there are so many schools now. Yeah. So, yeah.
It makes perfect sense. So we are, Sangeeta, now going to open the room for questions. I see there are a few questions already in the chat. So we'll start with those
questions first.
Yeah. So we'll start with these questions, but then I would encourage everybody to please come on camera, unmute yourself, have a chat here with Sangeeta so that she can answer your questions the best. But we'll meanwhile, while you all are warming up and raising your hands to ask your questions, let me just start with what we already have here. I think Pavan has asked, is there a difference between what I'm assuming is the old and new GMAT format scoring? So he's asked about the scoring difference. You touched upon it briefly, Sangeeta, if you could just tell us a little bit more.
Pavan, I think there is a difference, but like if you really go in depth into comparing the scores of 700 in the new GMAT and the 700 in the old GMAT, you'll find that there are quantitative differences in terms of percentage of answers correct, percentiles. There are some differences, but they are not really big. So I would say, yes, there are differences, but we don't have a measuring scale to say that how come that 700 holds this much power and this 700 holds this much power. We haven't been able to do that simply because we haven't even started yet. So now they've tried as best as possible to be focused in terms of the type of question they ask for business schools. So the focus version is more like they've changed the way that they've asked questions or what kind of questions they ask. And so they're grading it slightly differently. But in terms of what you get, my bet is that if you get a 720 in your focus GMAT, you're in. Just like, even the universities don't know everything about the focus GMAT yet. So their bar will be the same no matter what, right? So,
Makes
and you also
sense.
have this 805 for some reason. So you might have a little better chance. Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. All right. Sangeeta, also Ashish has asked, Ashish, if you could also come online, because I'm not sure what you are asking here. Maybe I'm not reading this right. Uh, Ashish says, can you clarify what we have now in the focus edition in each section and question types? So, Ashish, do you
Okay,
want to know?
I can go
Yeah.
through it quickly, but I've just done that.
Okay.
So, verbal section, 20, purple section, 23 minutes, 20.
The audio is not very clear. So
I'm sorry.
yeah, sorry, ma'am. The audio is not very clear. That is why.
Yeah. Okay. Your audio is not clear. Let me answer your question. And then if you have further questions, then you can ask me. So let me just put the focus edition has 23 questions in the verbal, 45 minutes. It has RC and CR, like reading comprehension and critical reasoning. SC, sentence completion, is out. Quantitative reasoning, it's got 21 questions, 45 minutes, all problem solving, no data sufficiency. And they've also removed geometry. So you'll have only algebra and arithmetic. Now you have a third section, which is called the data insight section, which is similar to data interpretation of before, but now it is counted towards your 800 score. Earlier it was not. And you have 20 questions in that section, 45 minutes. And the kinds of questions that you will have is multi-source reasoning, like it'll be same as data interpretation before, tables, graphs, multi-source reasoning, and you have something called the two-part analysis, where you have to decide between one and the other. If there's any further question on that, I can answer it. I can take it, provided I can hear you.
Yeah, can you please tell what is multi-source reasoning and what do they check?
So multi-source reasoning would be like they give you a bunch of, they'll give you an experiment and they will give you a table. Okay, so they'll tell you a seed experiment and then they'll give you a table on it, and then you have to see if you have this kind of data and that kind of data. You'll have to match the right things. Like if you have population increase, they might cross it with geographical location, and then they will ask you questions. That's pretty much it. Yeah, it's all based on, see, why have they given data insights? Because for two reasons. One is like, how do you read? Can you read a research paper? Do you make the right kind of inferences from a research paper? Yeah, that's it. If you read a research paper, are you making the right kind of analysis without going to the conclusion? Can you see what's happening while you're reading it? And I think that's what they're asking. But the multi-source reasoning is just like the data interpretation. If you go back and see those questions, it's very much like that. The only thing I'm not very sure of is the two-part analysis. But there's some information on the net, you can figure it out. Yeah.
If I'm not wrong, ma'am, what they want to check with our data insights is our inferential ability.
Yes, your inferential ability and ability to connect one information with the other. Like what kind of information will I connect with? So yes, it is like you have so much data today, right? So information is everywhere. So you need to make the right kind of connections. And you have to read the questions right. I think that's another thing. You have to understand what they want you to find out. And that depends a little bit on your verbal ability to break down the questions.
Perfect. Makes perfect sense. Ashish, if you also have further confusion you want to discuss in detail, and this goes to everybody, please remember that you can reach out to whoever you are in touch with from MBA and beyond. You will also receive an email from me after the end of this session. You can revert with your questions on the email. I assure you, yes. So Sangeeta is here. The rest of us are here. We will.
Yeah.
Perfect. So that's an open offer, everyone. So if your questions get skipped out from here, please do reach out to us, and we'll ensure that you're connected with the right person and you get all your questions answered, right? So Sangeeta, to the next question, Pankaj has asked a very interesting question, which is which is preferable for working professionals, the normal GMAT or the EA? And he's also asked if the EA is widely accepted.
Why is it specifically for working professional?
Pankaj, if you can answer that, that would be great.
Yeah, so my point was how it would be easier, or the way they check. It might be easier, right? Because we do not have some sections in the EA part,
EA part,
and
yeah.
also as an experience which can add up to your. You can. There's only 300. Yeah, it is just 300. I think with 300, if you score 200, I have heard that 200 is good enough for a good school.
Okay. How much experience do you have? How many years?
8 to 9 years.
8 to 9 years. Okay, so that makes a good case. Okay, that makes a good case for EA. You could take it in general, like, and this is my opinion only. I say take the normal GMAT, because what you're saying is that I don't really like, you have to make your case. If you're taking the EA, make sure that your application, your essays are outstanding. It will have to do for what, it's like, there are people who also ask for a GMAT waiver, okay, and they do get in. And with your 8-9 years experience, you are in that position to actually take the EA, provided you work on your applications brilliantly. Okay, make sure you do that. But here I want to tell one caveat. Okay, so I have heard of applicants. I have one who has taken the EA, and now he's taking the actual GMAT. So I want to be honest with that. So if you were just to ask me this or that, I would say take the GMAT if you haven't already prepped.
Yeah, just starting over. Yeah, thanks for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Pankaj. Sangeeta, the next question comes from Simran. She asks that, are there some links to study materials for the GMAT Focus Edition for those who are self-studying? Manhattan Prep is one example that she's given. So if you have any more such examples.
Yeah. Okay, so what was her name again?
Simran.
Yeah, that was a really good question, because we all want to do this. We want to do self-prep, and it is totally possible. See, the GMAT has not changed that much. They've just dropped sections. Okay, so whatever's available online for from MBA.com, from Manhattan Prep, the 6 tests that they have, they all make part of, and the GMAT, the OG available. All right, so you have all that, and you can just already they've changed the official guide. So if you buy the 24 version, you have a question bank of whatever 1,000 questions that are focus edition questions. So there's enough material available. What is free? Okay, I think she asked me what is free or available, right? Okay, what is free? Yeah, so I will tell you what I tell all my students, GMAT students. I say, please buy the MBA.com official guide. Stick to it. You must buy that. If you're doing self-study, please buy that. Buy the 6 tests, the 4 extra tests, 2 are free. Buy the 4 extra tests. Make sure that you have the MBA.com questions. And I'm going to also qualify it. I like Manhattan Prep, but what I find in MBA.com question is the complexity of the answer choices they give you. The questions are fine. Okay, the questions are very similar in all of them, and Manhattan Prep comes close. But the way that they word the answers, like in reading comprehension, is so complex. It's not complicated. You can't just choose one. You're going to have that struggle between B and C. That's the best practice you will get is with MBA.com questions. So having said that, the available resources for now will still be available for you for focus prep. The only thing is you will use DI. The earlier DIs will now become data insight. I don't know why I keep calling it data impact. Okay, where do you find free questions? I think you can just Google free GMAT questions. You'll get many. But I find that GMAT Club has got lots of explanations. There are lots of students who give their ideas. If you want to try a particular type of question, like, I have statistical reasoning questions, which I go wrong with. So I want to do 10 statistical reasoning. I would do that. I would go to a GMAT Club. I find that it's okay, but Google throws up a lot of information for you for free resources. And I think there are some videos also. Some guys actually do only that. Where do you find free resources? Please Google. Yeah. But whatever you do, if you're taking the GMAT, please buy the prep. Okay, you have the OG 22 from a friend. If you've been through the newer versions, what's different? I've been through the newer versions. They've just dropped the SC. So there are more number of questions for you to go through. And your math, your quant section is only PS. So the earlier version, the 22 version, would have PS and data sufficiency, PS and DS questions. The new versions have all of the questions are PS questions. So that's the difference. So you can work with that, but drop this. Okay.
Perfect. Simran and Ashish, were your questions answered? Do you have, Simran, I see that you came on video. Do you want to ask anything else as well? We would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I have just quick follow-up questions. But other than that, thank you so much. I think this gave me a lot of clarity. I just wanted to clarify, the GMAT Focus Edition is available from MBA.com, right? And they'll give you books, etc. Okay, so I also have the
They give you books? Yeah, the OG, the official guide.
Yeah. So do they have books for the Focus Edition?
Focus Edition? It's now available online. You can order in the books. Also, you can have the paper copy, but I always suggest please do it online, because ultimately you're going to do it on screen. So don't have the practice of underlining things. Even if you get the book, do it online, because there will be a code at the end of the book, and you have, and also your bank, like your test bank, has got nice places for notes, flagging questions. It gives you the time that you took, which doesn't happen with a paper edition. So go for the the online edition of the book.
Okay. Yeah.
That would be just advisory.
No, that's the thing, right? I'm not used to like studying online and all of that.
Yeah, but you have to get used to it, because in reading comprehension, you tend to underline, and you're looking down when you're studying. But in your screen, you're going to look here, and you're going to solve problems on the side, okay? Not on the paper. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I think my next question is similar to Ashish's. So I have the Manhattan Prep at the moment, right?
Yeah.
For 2023. And I can use the same syllabus there, except for the ones that weren't there.
You can use the Manhattan Prep, but I strongly suggest you also buy the official guide. I would say that I lead with that.
Yeah, I definitely
lead with that MBA.com, and I also shared with you why. Because it's not the question difficulty, it's the way that they construct the answer choices, even in quant. Okay, very tricky. They already predict where you could make a mistake, and your x is equal to 25 will be there. Like, I promise you, it'll be there and it'll be wrong. So yeah, they can predict where you make mistakes, and that I think MBA.com has mastered.
Got it. Definitely will do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you, Sangeeta.
Yep.
You, Ashmita, also.
Thanks, Simran. We have everyone time for one last question. If anybody has any question, you can please come up and ask your question. Otherwise, I will shoot my questions again. Does anybody have any other question? All right. So, okay, I see one question has popped up. Ashish, If you all want to connect with each other, whoever wants to connect, please, by all means, it's an absolutely free forum. Please do so.
That's really nice. Yeah.
So, Sangeeta, I will just go back a little bit to what we were discussing. What if somebody has yet to achieve the score that they want to, that they haven't achieved yet, and want to, also apply? What would you say for people who have not yet appeared for even a single GMAT, or GRE exam, and they are targeting the application rounds upcoming? Yes.
Okay, if you haven't taken, I hope you have started prep. Okay, that's the one thing. Like, you should, like, if you're applying for like R2 is in November, December, you should have at least started prep. If you haven't, please start today. Okay, start your GRE or GMAT prep. It's important, and it doesn't. I've had so many people who say things like, "Oh, I'm okay with verbal. I tried the 40 questions on the GMAT side. I got them all right." And the questions are very different when it comes to the actual test. So please first take a diagnostic test. If you haven't prepped, I would say take a diagnostic test, see where you stand. Okay, if I get a 650 on my diagnostic test, I can do round 2, no problem. Okay, I only have to up my score in that band, which means I know my content and I only have to improve on my process. Okay, so I would do that. So take the diagnostic test is what I would say to actually assess yourself. It's not in your head. It's not a figure that I'm good at this and I'm bad at this, but actually get it to numbers. If you're already prepping, just again, I would say like, good, look at where you're making your mistakes. Figure out that one question, how you're going to get it right every single time, not just this once. It's not like I understand my concept and that's why this is there. So I would say, like, if you've already started prep, make sure that you are doing it qualitatively, your prep. Okay, quantity is important. Like, and it's in the last stage when you take your full tests that I would say keep practicing. Take as many full tests as possible. But when you're leading up to it, make sure that every single question is correct. That's what I would do. And side by side, please work on your applications. And that is really important. It's going to boost everything. You already got your sights set on R2, R3. Start with that. Okay. And yeah, and as a last thing, I'd also like to add, like, find out which colleges have a GMAT waiver. Okay. If you're already in R3 and you want to apply, you might as well do that. Some applicants who do that. So yeah, it's just a thing. It's not like you won't get the score, but yeah, since you're running late.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Sangeeta. That explains a lot of, the questions that come up. One last aspect is also, I think that some schools allow for scores to be sent in later on. So that is also something that we could consider.
Yeah, you can
however,
that.
Yeah.
However,
However,
it is a clause.
Yeah. But it is imperative, as Sangeeta
that you
mentioned.
do your applications, yes.
Correct. Yeah. So you have to be prepared with the complete full application. You cannot just be prepared with your score. You have to be prepared with the entire application. And because it's such a difficult thing to digest, because our schooling, our most of our education has not been focused on doing qualitative and quantitative things together. We have been focused on applications, but particularly it becomes a little difficult. So I would say that please do get in touch with whomsoever you are in touch with MBA and beyond. Ask them how you're going to manage R2, and they will ensure that you are able to chart out your application in the right way. We are trained for this. This is our jobs, and we will definitely help you do this. All right. And if you are looking for R2 applications, please start today. It is imperative. All right. Thank you so much, Sangeeta. It was an absolute pleasure.
Lovely session. Thank you. I enjoyed myself. Thank you. And
thank you so much. It was extremely useful for, I'm sure, every one of us. All right.
Thank
And
you.
we'll share the recording with you over an email. Please get back to us if you have any questions. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.